In 2007, Britney Spears became the most publicized emotional breakdown in modern celebrity history. The paparazzi didn't just document her life, they hunted it. Every day, crowds surrounded her car, chased her through the streets, and shouted at her until she broke. But what the public saw was only the surface. Behind the scenes, custody battles with Kevin Federline were unfolding, and decisions were being made that would shape Britney's life for more than a decade. Tonight, we're looking at an allegation that cuts to the core of Britney's behavior during those years. According to someone who lived with her during the crisis, Britney wasn't being reckless. She was being controlled by a very specific and emotionally devastating threat. A threat tied to her identity as a mother. Later in this video, we reveal the direct quote that Britney was allegedly told whenever she tried to push back. And once you hear it, the rest of this story falls into place. Before we go deeper, tap subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown in this series. One detail that rarely makes headlines is how Britney spoke about Kevin privately. According to her former manager, Britney refused to say anything negative about him, even in moments of heartbreak. She reportedly said that no matter how the relationship ended, Kevin was the father of her children, and her children would one day form opinions based on how adults spoke about him. She believed protecting the image of their father was part of protecting them. This matters because Kevin's new book portrays Britney as unstable, chaotic, and dangerous. But during the time these events were happening, someone who was consistently around her says the opposite was true. Britney was emotional, yes, overwhelmed, yes, but not hateful or aggressive toward Kevin. Instead, he describes her as grieving the loss of her family unit. The contrast between these private behaviors and the dramatic claims being made now is the first sign that something deeper may be influencing how these events are being retold. During the conservatorship, Britney was never alone. Every aspect of her daily life, her schedule, her phone calls, her finances, and even her emotional reactions took place under supervision. There were bodyguards, nannies, assistants, house staff, and therapeutic supervisors circulating constantly. This wasn't a home environment where sudden emotional outbursts could go unnoticed. So when Kevin's memoir describes Britney entering a child's room with a knife and standing there silently, the logistical reality needs to be acknowledged. In households with guardianship oversight, any incident involving emotional instability or physical risk must be formally documented. It requires notification of medical supervisors, conservatorship legal teams, and sometimes even police. But no report exists for the event described. No emergency evaluations happened. Custody arrangements did not change as a result of it. This does not prove the event was fabricated, but it raises a critical question. Why is the most explosive allegation appearing years later, without any record during the time it supposedly occurred? The memoir also includes a description of Britney being restrained in a straitjacket. According to Britney's former manager, this did not occur. He claims he was physically present during the time period in which the book places this scene, and says that if such a restraint had taken place, there would be medical records, hospitalization logs, or conservatorship filings supporting it. Those records do not exist. Mental health interventions within a conservatorship are not casual. They are legal procedures involving multiple professionals. The absence of documentation matters because this is not a story from Britney's private diary. This is a story being sold to the public as an account of what happened. When dramatic imagery appears without historical documentation, years after the emotional power of the story will have the strongest effect, it is reasonable to question the purpose of the storytelling. This is where the timeline becomes essential. And that brings us to the moment everything shifted. As Britney's sons neared adulthood, the legal landscape changed. Once they were no longer minors, no one had the ability to restrict her ability to see them. There was no more custody leverage, no more court-ordered negotiation tied to her behavior or compliance, and importantly, child support-related financial structures began to end. The timeline is unmistakable. The children approached adulthood. Britney gained personal legal autonomy. The conservatorship dissolved. And suddenly, Kevin's memoir surfaced. These events may be unrelated, but the sequence matters because narratives that surface only once financial or legal leverage disappears must be looked at carefully. They are not neutral, they arise at points where there is nothing left to negotiate, only something left to influence. Public perception. And public perception shapes legacy. If you're still listening, tap subscribe. The next part is where the emotional core of this conflict becomes clear. One of the most confusing parts of the conservatorship era is how Britney continued to perform despite her clear emotional exhaustion. She recorded albums she didn't choose, appeared in shows she didn't initiate, and participated in residencies she didn't direct. Her former manager claims the primary reason Britney complied with these demands was her children. He says that when Britney expressed resistance, fear, or exhaustion, she was met with a single sentence. A sentence designed to cut straight to the heart of a mother's identity. According to him, this sentence was repeated enough that it became the reason Britney continued to work. This would explain why Britney publicly said she wanted freedom, yet continued performing for years afterward. It wasn't because she wanted to. It wasn't because she was fine. It was because the thing she valued more than anything, her connection to her sons, felt like it was at risk if she stopped. That context changes everything. When the memoir was released, public reaction was deeply divided. Some people believed Kevin was finally sharing his experience. Others saw the book as a financial and reputational play, one that would inevitably impact Britney and her sons for the rest of their lives. The most unsettling element is this. The children, now old enough to find and read anything online, are the ones who will carry these narratives forward. If the goal of a parent is to protect their children's emotional stability, publishing the most painful memories of their mother ensures the opposite. These accounts will not fade. They will follow the family for generations. And so the question becomes, who benefits from retelling these events now? And at what cost to the boys themselves? Britney's former manager uses a phrase to describe what happened in the family dynamic: interpretive conditioning. This is when a person, especially a child, is taught how to interpret someone's behavior rather than observing that person and forming opinions independently. For example, if a child is repeatedly told their parent is unstable, then any moment of sadness or frustration appears as proof, even if the behavior is normal. If a child is told their parent is dangerous, then a symbolic or artistic gesture, like dancing with props, becomes confirmation. Interpretation shapes memory more than events themselves. This does not require lies. It requires framing. And framing is one of the most powerful forms of psychological influence. Now that we understand the emotional, legal, and structural context, we return to the most dramatic claim: the knife in the bedroom. For such an incident to have occurred during a conservatorship with mandatory reporting systems, multiple staff members would have needed to ignore legal obligations. This would mean risking their employment, licenses, and in some cases, criminal liability. Yet no report was filed, no custody changes occurred, no medical professionals intervened, so either the incident did not happen as described, or it has been reshaped into something larger than it was. The absence of documentation is not proof of innocence, but it is evidence that the narrative must be examined critically. We now return to the sentence that Britney's former manager says controlled her life for years. The sentence he claims was repeated whenever Britney questioned the conservatorship, her workload, or the restrictions placed on her. The sentence was, "If you try anything like that, you'll never see the boys again." This line is the key. It explains the compliance, the silence, the exhaustion, the endurance. Britney was not trying to protect her career. She was trying to protect her children. If this video helped you understand the deeper emotional and psychological structure behind this story, tap subscribe for part 2, where we break down the financial trail behind the conservatorship.